Okay, you're on.
Hi everyone, my name is Kristen. I'm a registered physiotherapist and this is...
And I'm Michaela, also a registered physiotherapist.
Today we're talking all about breathing and its role in regulating the nervous system. So if you're not sure what the autonomic nervous system is, you can look back at our first video. We talk all about that. So I'm going to hand it over to Michaela and she's going to talk a bit more about breathing.
All right, thanks, Kristen. So as the title says, the power of breathing. So your breath is your number one sympathetic nervous system regulator. So the sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight response. So using our breath is an excellent way to regulate our nervous system. And as we know from our first video, regulating your nervous system will help with your immune system as well as many other functions that happen in our bodies. So we take 12 to 24 breaths per minute. That is one of the reasons why your breath is such a powerful regulator of your nervous system, because you're doing it so often. Now, our breath is regulated by our autonomic nervous system. That's how we keep breathing when we're sleeping, because we're not thinking about breathing when we're asleep. And during the day, we're not really thinking about breathing either. And our breath does change. So the way we breathe does change in response to how we're feeling. So if we're scared, our breath will become more rapid and shallow, preparing us to either fight or flight or freeze. And then the same thing, if you're feeling anxious or stressed, your breath will also change in response to that, typically becoming something called an apical breath, which is breathing into the upper chest and using those neck muscles to help you breathe. When we do this, our breath is more rapid, it's more shallow, so we're not using the full capacity of our lungs, and we aren't mobilizing those lower ribs. So mobilizing means moving those lower ribs, which is where the diaphragm lives. So as you can see here, this is where the diaphragm would live, and it's a dome shape. And when we breathe in, that dome moves down. When we breathe out, it moves back up. And so in order to get your diaphragm moving well, you need to be moving these lower ribs. So you need to not be doing an apical breath. The apical breath being what you do when you're stressed, anxious, or scared, okay? And so by changing how we breathe, so using our conscious control, so most of the time our breathing is controlled by our autonomic nervous system, but we also have the ability to consciously check in with our breath and make changes to it. And that's how we can use our breath to regulate our nervous system. So something that we teach most of our clients that we learned from Julie Wiebe, physical therapist, is the piston breath, which is coordinating that diaphragm, which lives in the lower ribs, the pelvic floor, which lives in the pelvis, and then the transverse abdominals, the deepest abdominal layer that wraps all the way around the trunk. What we're going to talk about today is the umbrella breath, and this is what we want everybody to try to work on. So the umbrella breath is the first part of that piston breath, which is also by Julie Wiebe, physical therapist. And it teaches us how to use the diaphragm well during our breath. So I'm going to go through how to do that in a minute, but what you can do with the umbrella breath is whenever you're feeling stressed or anxious throughout the day, and that's probably happening often right now with the situation that we're all in, is you can stop and you can take 3 to 5 deep umbrella breaths, which is going to help to reprogram your breathing and your nervous system. And it's also going to bring you into the present, which is really important right now. So how do you do an umbrella breath? I'd like you to start first by laying on your back and propping your head and neck with a pillow so that your rib cage lays flat on the ground and you feel really comfortable. So everything in your neck should feel relaxed. You can have your knees bent, and really there should be no stress or strain anywhere in your body. You can also do this on your bed. It doesn't have to be on the ground. You're going to place your hands on your lower rib cage so that you can feel where you're breathing. And you're going to take a breath in, sending the air into those lower ribs. So for females, this could be the bra strap. And for males, this is going to be the lower ribs underneath the nipples. And what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in, sending air into those areas, and think about it moving into the back of the ribs, not just the sides, so the side of the ribs and the back here. And you also want to feel your tummy lengthen. So if you're holding a lot of tension in your stomach muscles, you won't be getting that diaphragm moving well. So to recap again, you're going to take a nice deep breath in, moving those lower ribs, letting the tummy lengthen gently. And then following that, you're going to do a gentle exhale where you feel those ribs collapse and close down, and you don't want any abs contracting for that. So if these are the lower ribs, you're going to breathe in. They're going to open nice all the way around 360 degrees, just like an umbrella. Then you're going to have a gentle breath out, visualizing those ribs just closing down and not having any engagement from the abdominal muscles. What I want you to do is practice that breath. Set a timer for 2 to 5 minutes, whatever you think you can do. And don't worry about if you're doing it right or not. Just try to feel the movement in those lower ribs. Try to feel your stomach lengthening. Try to feel on that exhale that those ribs are closing and that you're not feeling those abs engage. And just try to do that. And start with that. Do that for 2 minutes, twice a day, maybe in the morning, maybe at night. This is actually a good time before you go to bed. You could do it, which will help down-regulate that nervous system, which is going to help you with your sleep hygiene and your sleep. And maybe you do it first thing in the morning, or if you have a stressful moment during the day. And then as you feel how that breath feels laying down, you can take that into lots of different parts of your day, sitting, standing, walking, anytime. So you can use that to check in, reset that nervous system, reset your breathing pattern. And as a bonus, this is actually going to help you recruit your core more effectively, but we will talk about that more another time. And so again, just to recap, that breathing is a way that you can regulate your nervous system, and it has many other benefits, but that's the one we're highlighting for you today. Kristen, anything to add? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I just have, one question or one thing that I think would be helpful to cover. Maybe, I think you kind of talked about it a little bit, but what if someone is having a hard time getting this lying down? What are some things that they can either think about or like position changes that they could try if they're having a hard time getting this umbrella breath lying down?
Yeah, so you can try propping your head and shoulders maybe with even another pillow. So you want to try to change your position to see which way feels the easiest. And so propping yourself with a pillow under your head, neck, maybe shoulders. Did you have something else in mind?
And then I was thinking, you touched on the like making sure that your abdominals are relaxed. And I think on the inhale, sometimes people try and force their ribs open rather than letting them fill with air.
Yeah.
One of the main things that might be helpful if you're having a hard time getting that.
Yes, great. I'm glad you brought that up. Absolutely. The other thing to add on to that you could do is if putting your hands, so I'm just going to stand up a little bit here. If putting your hands on your lower ribs isn't helping, you could also put one on your tummy and one on your lower ribs to feel that expand together. And sometimes even putting a hand on your chest to feel if the air goes there first, it's probably more of an apical breath. So you can put your hand here as just a touch point to say like, okay, I don't want my upper ribs to fill first. I want the breath to go lower into my lower ribs and tummy. The goal with this breath is that you're not doing one area more than the other, but you're getting that diaphragm moving, which we know if the lower ribs are moving, we're getting better, what's called diaphragmatic excursion. So it's not that one area should move over the other. It's that most of us are doing an apical breath or a belly breath and not getting those lower ribs moving. And that's really what we're trying to do with this breath, is to get those lower ribs moving to improve how we use our diaphragm, improve our lung capacity, and regulate that nervous system.
That's great. Thank you. So Michaela touched on a lot of the benefits of breathing. Next week, we're going to be talking a bit about mindful movements. We're going to be putting this into some different movements. So this would be something that would be good to practice over the weekend so that you can get the hang of it. And then we can talk a little bit about mindful movement. Anything else?
No, that's great.
All right.
Have fun breathing.
Bye.